Thank you for tuning in. This is Investing Insights with Barry Burnett, right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC, every Saturday night, 8 to 9 p.m. We're so glad you're listening. This is not your average radio home show. You see, we love houses and conversations about gardens and granite countertops and window coverings and things. That's fabulous, but this show is designed totally differently. It's for the entrepreneurial investor. People that have found themselves invested in properties, particularly if they really intended to, but they want to be able to have their portfolio operate stronger, safer, smarter. So we're talking to you about your real estate investments. Yeah, you probably own a home, but you undoubtedly have acquired other things for yourself. Maybe a high-rise office building, shopping center, mobile home parks, maybe things that are really thrilling, stuff that you can really dig yourself into, or sometimes you have to dig yourself out of. Because real estate investments have a lot of ups, downs, and sideways, just as anything in the economy. It's totally different from the stock market portfolios you may have owned in the past. Real estate investments, this show is designed for you, the entrepreneurial investor, so that you can run your life stronger, safer, smarter. And to do that, there are special experts that we have to hear from, that I need to introduce you to individually and particularly. And today, we are really blessed and really pleased tonight to introduce Scott Akerley, CEO of the Pango Group. And the Pango Group is, well, Scott, what does Pango, how did you come up with that name?
Well, we like to partner with a lot of real estate companies, and when our very first partnership with the real estate company, we were having lunch and decided to open a new company together, and we shook hands on it and opened the company. And years later, when we were talking about it, Pango meant pledge, and pledge is to trust in Latin, and we basically kicked that off as our umbrella company, the Pango Group.
So it's basically that your companies are built on a factor of trust. But what do you actually do? You own a network of real estate escrow companies, don't you?
Yes, we have 25 offices and 250 employees that we own or manage in Southern California.
That's a pretty good size operation by anybody's register, but in independent escrow, that's massive. Yeah. But involved in that, you are way out forward thinking, because not only do you have independent escrow, you also have done some extraordinary things within escrow. Now let's talk about escrow. What's the purpose of an escrow company? And how do you come alongside of our entrepreneurial investors?
You know, we work with investors, buyers, and sellers, and we are basically the neutral third party that holds all the documents and funds.
So neutral, you don't pick sides?
Don't pick sides. And we want to make sure everything that a buyer and seller agree upon happens in the course of the transaction.
So if it's in writing, it's an instruction to you to accomplish it, just as it's written.
Absolutely.
And if they're going to change their minds, they have to change it by making a phone call or dropping you an email?
Phone call, email, we prepare instructions and have everybody sign them.
And it has to be signed.
Has to be signed.
Because real estate is different from a handshake. Everything in real estate's done in writing.
Yes.
And you're a neutral third party, so you have a fiduciary responsibility, which means what?
That we're responsible to the buyers and sellers to make sure everything that they've agreed upon happens during the course of that transaction.
Yeah, and fiduciary is another Greek or Latin word that identifies Pango as trust. You have the trust of the individuals who participate, and you've earned it with their realtors and attorneys and bankers and lending institutions over the years. You've been at this for 25 years as an owner, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and that's not a small thing in a really rapidly changing real estate market. So you've been through a few cycles.
Yeah, I started out in 1988 with the peak of the market, and it was just booming back then, and slowly got into a foreclosure market in the early 90s, and then back up booming again, and several years ago, it turned back down again.
So if you have 250 employees and 25 offices, that is it the largest independent escrow company in Southern California?
It's close to it. It's in the top three.
Top three.
Yeah.
Well, we're bringing this to you here at Investing Insights with Barry Burnett, because you need to hear from extraordinary experts. And Scott Akerley, the Pango Group, it's pangogroup.com. You're going to want to read more about pangogroup.com because they bring tremendous, trustworthy, capable, confident information back and forth as a fiduciary. They don't pick sides, but they actually close transactions. And they've closed transactions for me for decades, at least 2 decades, that pretty much from the beginning that we've been able to do business together, Scott. And why do I trust you and your company so well?
Well, our relationship, we build first off with the culture of our company and just making sure our employees, we have a trust with them, and then that trust turns to our realtors, buyers, and sellers. And it is all about trust. We whatever we say we're going to do, we do.
Yeah, and I just experienced that when one of your spectacular escrow officers, Mary Lotz, did another transaction for me, and from start to finish, the transaction was 9 days. And she did a spectacular job because she followed through on every single detail, but she just made it look so effortless. I'm terribly impressed, and I'm sure that you really enjoy quite a few really excellent escrow officers just like Mary.
Absolutely. And that's our goal, is really just, we are constantly educating our escrow officers and teaching them the latest and trends of what's out there, the latest laws that are changing, and obviously just making the transaction transparent to buyers and sellers about what's happening in the transaction the entire time.
And transparency is a hard thing, especially with the changes in the economy and the changes in the marketplace. We're going to talk a lot about changes and how you've adapted and how your company has really gone right out on the leading edge nationally to comply with important regulations. So we're going to delve into that just a little bit, but we're going to talk about it a lot more as this show unfolds. So pangogroup.com, that's your 25 different offices. You operate under what names in Southern California?
Glen Oaks Escrow, American Trust Escrow, Escrow Trust Advisors.
Glen Oaks Escrow, American Trust, you're so familiar with them, you're saying real fast. American Trust Escrow.
Escrow Trust Advisors.
Escrow Trust Advisors, that's West Side and
yes,
and Pasadena. And
Coachella Valley Escrow.
Which is the luxury desert properties.
Yes.
And then Escrow, Glen Oaks Escrow of San Diego.
Yes.
So if you can hear us on this radio show, including those of you listening on radio.com and iHeart Radio, escrow is something that's vital to your real estate transactions, and you're listening to one of the top experts in escrow for over 25 years. We're going to talk more about that, Scott, when we come back with Investing Insights with Barry Burnett, because what you're going to hear from Scott as one of the top escrow professionals in the Southern California area and nationally is that he's going to help your portfolio be stronger, safer, smarter. We'll be right back. Investing Insights with Barry Burnett here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.